Idaho Falls Pediatrics, proudly supporting kids in our community in 7 Questions with Emmy.
Hey guys, welcome back to 7 Questions with Emmy. Today I'm excited to be speaking with Peggy Rowe. She's a retired school teacher, has written 2 best-selling books, and is the mother of 3 boys, including Mike Rowe. Peggy, it's so nice to chat with you.
Emmy, I've been looking forward to this. You know, I saw your previous interview with my son, Mike, and I loved it. And I have to tell you, this interview might be just a little bit different because Mike is kind of a smart aleck and I'm not. He's kind of a wise guy and I'm not. So this might be a little more serious than Mike's, but we'll see.
Okay, let's get going with the questions. Question number 1. What was it like raising Mike and your other sons?
Do I understand from your previous interview that you have brothers?
I have 2 brothers.
Then you know about boys. Raising boys was an experience. Let's just say that we lived in the country. We had fields, we had a big stream, and we had woods, a big woods. In fact, the kids used to call it a forest. So I was used to having sticks and stones in the yard. I had sand under the sofa cushions. I had turtles on the kitchen floor walking around. We had pans of crayfish on the front porch. And one night, one of the boys put a pan of crayfish under our bed in water. And in the middle of the night, we woke up and I heard this sloshing around. And I saw the crayfish. And in the morning, I asked our sons what happened. And our youngest, Phil, said, I was afraid they'd get homesick and miss their mommy. So I put them under your bed for the night. And that's what it was like raising 3 boys. I loved it.
Sounds like your boys were a little mischievous.
A little bit, yeah. And kind of normal boys. Are your brothers younger than you?
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
Oh, okay. Boys are different from girls. I do have 2 granddaughters now, and they're school teachers. And I did see a lot of them growing up, and I can appreciate the difference between boys and girls and their behavior. But I would like to go back and do it all over again, raising the boys. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but it was fun.
How did you teach your kids to work hard?
You know, Emmy, I think that's, instead of teaching them, I think you just set an example. Their father was a school teacher and worked hard, came home every night with bags of notebooks to grade, or was always preparing tests or grading papers. He was a hard worker. In the summer, he had very physical jobs that he took when he wasn't teaching. And I was always occupied in something. And the boys had chores. Do you have chores?
I do have chores.
Good, because I think that's a good thing. Living in the country, there was always grass to cut. There were gardens to weed, and there was wood to chop. So the boys kind of grew up with a work ethic, which is good.
Yeah. How did you first realize that Mike was famous?
Well, he was doing a local show in Baltimore, and it was called Your New Home. And it was on television every Sunday. And he worked with a lot of real estate agents, people who sell houses and show properties. And Mike wore a blue shirt and khaki pants every Sunday and talked about the houses that were for sale in our area. And one afternoon, I don't remember the day of the week, but he went shopping with me across the street. I had to pick up something for dinner, and a man ran up to him and he hugged him and he said, Mike, I just want you to know how proud. Now, the town that we grew up in was called Overley. I just want you to know how proud we overly people are of you and your success. And he was carrying groceries and he set them down on the floor and he just threw his arms around Mike's waist and he said, just know that we all love you and we're proud of you. And, that's when I first realized, I think, that Mike was famous. My husband has to go out, but he just wanted to come in and say a quick hello to you, Emmy, and your family.
What's your name?
Hello, young lady. How are you?
Good. How are you?
You have to come down just a little more,
I'm
honey.
just fine, dear.
Her name is Emmy, and her dad is here. His name is Nate.
Good to meet you. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Where are you headed?
Yeah,
Where are you headed? He said.
I gotta go to the hearing aid man or lady.
And that's
What
why
was that? No, kidding.
And that's why I repeated the question.
Yes.
Oh, I heard it well.
I know, but I'm so close to you. Fine, honey. Good luck with your trip.
All right, we'll see you, Em.
You take care. Thank
Take
you.
care, Eric.
Bye, hon. Love you. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
And that fast, Emmy, you know how old people are. I forgot what the question was. Could you repeat it?
When did you first realize Mike was famous?
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, I told you that experience we had at the grocery store. Every time I went anywhere with Mike, it was the same thing. He was just crushed by people. We went out to dinner one day. It was my granddaughter's birthday. We went to a place on the water, and it was a pier, and our table was outside on the pier. And a man was tying up his boat. And he jumped over the rail and he came running over to Mike. And he said, now at this time, Mike was doing dirty jobs. And he said, Mike, my bilge needs to be emptied. Well, that's the part of the boat underneath that collects all the waste, like maybe from the toilets and so forth. My bilge needs to be emptied, Mike. And my wife said, Mike Rowe will do it. And we all laughed, of course, and he went back. And by the time we finished eating, there was a line of maybe 20 people who wanted their picture taken with Mike and who wanted him to autograph something. So, yeah, from early on in his career, I knew that people knew who he was. But I'll tell you, when I really was convinced that he was famous, when I saw him on Sesame Street, he was doing a skit with Oscar the Grouch. And Oscar told him that he told Mike, you're not the dirty one. I'm the dirty one. I'm dirtier than you are. And Mike said, oh, no, I don't think. And Oscar invited Mike down into his basement. Did you possibly see that episode?
I don't think I've seen that.
Well, it was wonderful. And I said to my husband, oh, John, Sesame Street, our son has arrived. And then one Sunday, we noticed that he was an answer on the New York Times crossword puzzle. And then another weeknight, he was an answer on Jeopardy. So, yeah, we knew that Mike was pretty famous. People knew who he was.
That's pretty cool.
I thought so, but then I'm his mother. You know how mothers are.
Mike shared his most embarrassing moment with me about when he ate a burrito before going on live TV. Were you watching QVC when that happened? And what do you think of the story?
I saw it. Excuse me. And I thought during his interview with you, Emmy, I thought he was possibly just a little too explicit. I thought he didn't have to explain in so many terms, bathroom words. I guess I'm a little more refined than Mike, and Mike, he always makes me laugh. And so the story, of course, made me laugh. But I was a little cringy too, like, oh, you shouldn't be talking about this. In my second book, I'm going to hold it up here because I never miss a chance to advertise my book. It's called About Your Father. There's a story in there about Mike and his relationship with Pooh. And one woman gave him a nickname. She calls him Poodini. And it was so funny. And so I wrote a story about it. And I tried to trace back when this bathroom stuff happened. Can I read you just a couple of short paragraphs?
Yeah.
I think are kind of funny. Well, let me tell you the backstory. Mike was about 4 years old, and he had a little brother who was 2, maybe not quite 2, maybe 1.5. And his name was Scott. And Scott was in a playpen, and Mike was playing tiddlywinks, and I had to use the restroom. So I said, Mike, keep an eye on your little brother. Keep an eye on Scott while I run to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute. And he said, okay. And he was playing. Well, when I came back, half of the tiddlywinks were gone. Most of them were gone. There was no sign of them anywhere in the room. And I knew that his little brother had reached through the playpen bars and eaten them. It was the only explanation. So I called the doctor. And I said, oh no, I didn't call the doctor. I took him right in because I was so scared that he was going to die because he'd eaten tiddlywinks. And the doctor said, don't worry about it. His digestive tract is up to the challenge. And all you have to do is feed him a lot of mashed potatoes, and nature will take its course. And the tiddlywinks that are in his stomach will gradually pass through his system. So this is just a couple of paragraphs about Mike's reaction. The following day, after heaping helpings of mashed potatoes, our little Michelangelo, and Michelangelo was a famous sculptor. He built things and sculpted things. Our little Michelangelo presented us with the first of 2 unique sculptures. Young Mike was both repulsed and captivated by the incredible, vibrant spectacle in his brother's pants. Well, you know what that is, and it was filled with tiddlywinks that are bright red and green and blue and yellow. It was the aurora borealis of bowel movements, and he obsessed over just one more glimpse. Oh, Mike just couldn't get enough. There were more mashed potatoes. Then the following day, with Big Brother hovering like a helicopter on a rescue mission, it happened again. Another brown miracle mass infused with blue, green, red, and yellow flecks, like a giant M&M laced peanut butter cookie. This did not have an adverse effect on Mike. Indeed, it was quite the opposite, leaving our 4-year-old with a rapt expression reminiscent of Bernadette of Lourdes. Of course, Bernadette's encounter led to sainthood, whereas Mike's resulted in something a bit less dramatic. He gave up tiddlywinks. So I look back at this story and I think, maybe that's why Mike's so comfortable talking about burritos and the effect they could have on one.
Yeah. What made you decide to write your books?
You know, I've been a writer for a long, long time. I loved writing. When I first got out of college and started teaching, I taught 3rd grade. What grade are you in, Emmy?
I'm in 3rd grade.
Whoa, what a coincidence. I taught 3rd grade, and I discovered something about 3rd graders. When I had to teach a new unit, say a unit on animals, I found out that the best way to introduce that unit was to write a poem about it. And so I did. I'm going to share with you just a short poem that I wrote for that unit, and it's called Turtles. Turtles are pokey wherever they go. They carry their houses. That's why they're so slow. When playing on grass or crossing the street, they're dragging their shelter on 4 tiny feet. But when they get tired wherever they roam, they're lucky to have their own mobile home. If raindrops should fall when they've gone to town, they don't have to wonder if windows are down. When leaving for school or shopping at stores, they don't have to bother to lock their front doors. Sure, turtles are slow, but you would be too if you had to carry your whole house with you. Well, the kids loved it. And so
I love that too.
you like it. Oh, I'm so glad. And you know what? So when I had to introduce a new word, maybe a new vocabulary word like nutrition, I would write another poem using the word nutrition or talking about nutrition. And I learned that boys love ridiculous poetry, absurd poetry that doesn't make sense. Can I share one more?
Yeah.
It's not long. I call this one nutrition because that's probably the word that I wanted to introduce to the children. And I thought, if I write a poem about it, they'll learn it even better, faster. Nutrition. My neighbor Tom eats bugs and worms and bark from apple trees. You'd think he'd get a stomach ache or catch a bad disease. One day he chased a tiny frog that hopped into our yard. He caught it, stuffed it in his mouth, then blinked and swallowed hard. My sister said she saw him eat a shiny little rock. Then one day he took off his shoe and ate his smelly sock. Last summer, on July the 4th, he ate a cherry bomb. He took off like a rocket ship, and now he can't find Tom. Boys especially love these ridiculous poems that don't make a lot of sense. So anyway, that got me started in writing. And before long, I was writing stories. And through the years, I wrote a lot of articles and essays for newspapers and magazines. But I didn't write a book until I was 80 years old. And I wrote it because Mike encouraged me to write it. He said, "Mom, you're a good writer. I know publishers would love if you write a book." And that's how I got started writing a book.
What's your favorite?
I've written two, and I'm on my third one right now.
What's your favorite color?
Well, when I was your age, I loved blue for some reason. I don't know why.
I love blue right now too.
You and look, I'm wearing a blue top and a blue top underneath of it. I love blue. We used to have a blue car, and I loved my blue car. So I guess if I had to say my favorite color in the whole world, I also like pink and red. Yeah. It would be awfully dull to just like one color all the time and have everything blue. So I do use a little variety. But yeah, it's blue.
I was in New York on Wednesday, and I was talking with Drew Barrymore, and she said sometimes her favorite color is just rainbow. Because that's a good favorite color.
It is. It has just about everything.
Yeah,
Everything in it.
that's probably my favorite color.
Yeah, and I do like Drew Barrymore too, so I guess I could go with rainbow.
Yeah, because that has blue in it and purple and red.
Red, orange, yellow.
Green, blue, indigo, and violet.
Very good. Very good. And you know what? Have you ever eaten anything called rainbow sherbet?
Yes, I have.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But blue ice cream, not so much.
Yeah.
I've never had any blue ice cream.
How do you keep Mike humble?
You know, there again, Emmy, I don't believe that's something you can teach people. I do know that he has never been drawn to fancy clothes. You've probably noticed that Mike wears jeans, t-shirts, sometimes a baseball cap. I don't even know if he owns a suit. I've seen him in a sport coat, and I saw him in what do you call it? A tuxedo. He had to go to a fancy dress ball for the Marines out there in California. But he's not one to dress up. He doesn't have a fancy car, a big fancy sports car. He doesn't own anything that's showy that would make people say, oh, look what Mike has. Oh, I love that. So he's always been kind of a humble person. He's always been appreciative of other people and their skills. And that's why Dirty Jobs was such a good show for him, because he has respect for people who do things that help other people. And the people on Dirty Jobs did things that make our lives better, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think Mike maybe was just born humble. Don't know.
Yeah. Now it's time for some bonus questions. Are you ready, Peggy?
I don't know. Are they hard?
Not really.
Okay.
There might be a little hard one in there somewhere.
Okay. Well, I'll do my best.
Okay. What do you like about being a mom?
You know, when the children were young, I just loved it. And I was a teacher before I had children. And then we decided that when we had children, I would stay home with them. And I never regretted it. I loved having the children around. In fact, this is a funny story. I also love to play games. And you know how children, I don't know if you've ever done this, but sometimes children will pretend to be sick so they don't have to go to school. Do you know anybody who's ever done that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, like maybe I have a stomach ache, or maybe I have a headache, or I just don't feel like going out today. Can I please stay home? Well, my children tried that. And I made them play games all day long with me. Oh my golly, we played Candyland. We played Rummy. We played, oh, what else? We played Life. We played all the games that kids love. And they got sick and tired of it, but I wouldn't let them stop. They had to play games with me all day long. Concentration, you name it. And guess what? After a while, staying home from school wasn't all that much fun. They decided, yeah, I'm going to stay home all day and play games with my mother, or am I going to go to school with my friends? So, but I did love raising the children. And like I said before, I will say to my husband from time to time, I really miss being home with the children, having them all here, having them all around the table for dinner. I loved that. I miss that. I would love to go back and do it all again.
What was your favorite dessert to cook for Mike and the boys when they were growing up?
Everybody has a favorite dessert. Mike's favorite dessert was chunky chocolate chip cookies, and I made them a lot. He loved taking them to school. And you know what? I learned something when he was older. He confessed something to me, that he used to trade those big chocolate chunky chip cookies to other kids. And guess what he traded for? He traded for things like ding dongs and devil dogs. And what are those little round ones with the, I don't know, tasty cakes? He traded my wonderful homemade desserts for bought things that you get out of a wrapper. So I forgave him. Let's see. Oh, and Scott loved homemade apple pie. Just loved it. So every once in a while, I'd make an apple pie. One day, when he came home from school, I was outside in the yard, and I said, Scott, I made an apple pie today. If you're hungry and you'd like a little snack, there's an apple pie in the middle of the dining room table. Have a piece. Well, he came out minutes later carrying an empty pie plate. He said, Mom, was it in here? Well, we had a dog named Shim, who was very clever. and a climber, apparently. She climbed up on the middle of that table
And
and ate the entire apple pie. But Scott is all grown up now, has a wife, children. He's an engineer, and he still loves apple pie. And every once in a while, he makes an apple pie. Our youngest loved pound cake, just plain old pound cake made with butter. And so I would make that from time to time. And they were my children's favorite desserts. And as luck would have it, my husband and I love all desserts. So we all enjoyed.
Yeah. What advice do you have for me?
Wow. You're a third grader. I taught third graders. Of course, I loved all of my children, but the ones who came to school prepared really had a special place in my heart. The ones who actually did their homework and came to school with enthusiasm. A teacher can tell that. I would give you that advice. And also, so I've met your parents this morning, and I'm very impressed. So I would say, Emmy, if you take your parents' advice in life, I don't think you can go wrong. I think that's the best advice I can give you.
Peggy, thank you so much for chatting with me. A reminder that we post a new 7 questions interview every Thursday, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Tell Mike hi for me, Peggy.
I will do that, Emmy. He was so impressed by you, and so am I. I expect to hear grand things from Emmy in the future. Thank you for inviting me. This was fun.
Send you this soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great. Love it.
Idaho Falls Pediatrics, proudly supporting kids in our community, and 7 questions with Emmy.